Good morning. It is Monday in Holy Week, and we find ourselves here today in beautiful Kansas. It is Monday morning in the priest's library. Bet those of you familiar with St. Mary's probably had no idea there's a priest's library, but I am here in the priest's library in this very comfortable chair. I'm here with St. Joseph over here on my left. Been having a conversation. You probably wouldn't realize that that's St. Joseph, but it actually is. I can assure you this is actually St. Joseph. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, it's St. Joseph. So, but here in beautiful Kansas, I woke up, I think it was it 2 days ago, 3 days ago? I woke up and it was 28 degrees outside. And there was sleet coming down. It was sleeting outside. It was basically snowing. And I remember I had checked the weather forecast earlier, a few days before, and I remember seeing how on Tuesday, so that would be tomorrow, on Tuesday, it's going to be 82 degrees. And I thought, wow, here I am, it's in the morning, and it's snowing outside, and in a few days, it's going to be summer. What an amazing place to live. It's so much fun. I love it. I really do. I'm serious. It's great. It's like going to a restaurant, and every time you go to the restaurant, the menu is just completely different every time. Like every single time you go. It's so exciting. It's so much fun. I love it. So anyway, we're in beautiful Kansas here today. I find myself, as I said, here in the priest's library, and we have our first video today of Time with Father. It's a great honor to start this off. My name is Father Stephen Reid. I didn't introduce myself at the beginning. I'm stationed here in St. Mary's as one of the priests. I was put in charge of the girls' school, so that's been it's been fun. No, actually, it's been very good. It's been a great blessing to be here in St. Mary's. But of course we find ourselves in very different, I think we could say very difficult circumstances. Of course, one of the reasons we're having this video is to give everyone the opportunity to see us and to hear us. We're all more or less hidden away in our homes. We are hiding from the virus, and we probably are feeling maybe a little bit anxious. I'll be totally forthright and honest. I've been feeling a little anxiety too. A little weird, a little bit apocalyptic, but I think we'll be okay. And I think that basically sums up my talk today. Everything is going to be fine because everyone's just freaking out. And we just need to calm down. We really do. We just need to calm down. That's my topic of today. It's peace of soul. I want to ask all of you to calm down. Be at peace. Be at peace. I was reading the news, and I got to an article, and I think that just reading the news is already a mistake. I got to an article where I don't remember the exact title, but it was basically, the young people are dying of coronavirus. Male 30-year-old man dies of coronavirus. And I thought, shoot, I'm male. I'm 30 years old. I'm going to die. I'm going to die of coronavirus. And that's when I thought, okay, yeah, I need to turn the news off. This is insane. I'm hyperventilating and I'm freaking out because of some news article that's probably not even that factual. Okay, I'm not going to get into that. But coronavirus is a real problem, and it's scary. People are actually dying, and it's not something to be taken lightly. But I think the whole point of the news is to grab your attention and to make you click on it. And so if it's scary, for some reason, we were really attracted to that, which is a little odd, but we do that. We're human beings. So I think we need more peace. We definitely need more peace. There's the news. There's, of course, for most of us, I think, many of us, we don't have the sacraments. And that is a major bummer. That's a major bummer for all of you. There's no doubt about that. It's a major bummer for priests, too, because that's obviously the Mass is our life, and we still say Mass, so we're very blessed. But we don't have the faithful with us, and that's very difficult. That's not easy. I think some people get this idea that the priests are sitting in very comfortable chairs in libraries and, well, like I'm doing now, but having this great time and, kicking back. And I think if we're really honest and we really understand who priests are, we realize that that's definitely not true. It's difficult for all of us. We're not happy with it either at all. But here we are. We're scared of the news. We're somewhat, maybe completely, or even just a little bit deprived of the sacraments, and that's scary. We don't like that. And then there's the threat of illness. We're afraid that we're going to get sick, and maybe you are sick. Maybe you have coronavirus. I don't know. We're praying for you, whatever happens. So it's a time where we're very much not at peace. So we're going to talk about peace of soul. When I started this, actually before I started this talk, before I turned on this video here, Father McBride was walking through, and he heard that I was giving a talk on peace of soul, and he said, "Oh, make sure to tell them." He said that, and I believe the name of the monk was Dom Baker, and he had heard that from a Benedictine monk, I believe Father Matthew. And he told me, yeah, peace of soul is the greatest mortification that we can offer to God. And I thought, wow, shoot, dang. I thought I was going to give a talk about how peace of soul is so great because it's so nice and it makes you feel so good inside and it's just so wonderful and peaceful and happy. And now it's another mortification. Great. It's true. And actually, I think what better reason to have peace of soul than, of course, to offer it to God? If we're going to have peace of soul and we're just looking out for ourselves, well, that we're kind of defeating the purpose there. That doesn't make any sense. So peace of soul is ultimately for God. Our Lord Jesus Christ tells us, just remembering off the top of my head, he says, my peace I give to you, not as the world gives, do I give to you. So that's also really important. The peace that our Lord is giving to us is not the same kind of peace that we're going to try and find in this life. I think we look for, it's like going back to the news. It's like we're on the news and we're clicking all these things and we're looking for a kind of satisfaction. And we're going on, on like Facebook and social media and reading all of the mean comments and all these things, trying to find something. And we're just killing ourselves. We're just stabbing ourselves repeatedly with a knife. I don't know why we do that. But we're actually looking for peace. And it's strange because we don't find peace at all. We find the exact opposite. I think it's a bit of a reflection of trying to find peace in this life. We're not going to find it. If we do find some kind of peace, it's not going to last. It's going to fade away. And that's a problem. Peace of soul, of course, has to begin with God. If we talk about peace being something that is not belonging to the world, something that is divine, peace has to start with God, and it has to start with this realization of who God is. That's really important. God is in control. And I mean, we get that. We understand that. But we don't live it, or our actions in our life, they don't express that. It's a bit like children. Children, if you tell a child, I use this analogy all the time. So if some of you have heard me preach, you've definitely heard this analogy before. Trusting God is like children and their parents. God is the parent. God is the all-knowing parent. The parent knows what's best for the child. The parent gets it. The parent is mature. The parent is, we hope, an adult. So the parent understands. The child is still learning. The child doesn't understand. The child doesn't get it. So the child wants to, ride their bicycle off the roof. To the child, it sounds like an amazing idea. It sounds so much fun. But the parent knows, no, Jimmy, riding your bicycle off the roof is a really bad idea. You will break bones or die. Please don't do it. And Jimmy doesn't understand. My parents are so stupid. They don't get it. They're so boring. Why would they do this to me? Obviously, my parents hate me. It's a bit of an extreme analogy, but you get the idea. The child's stupid. And we as human beings, we're really stupid, especially compared to God. And God is that parent saying, you have no idea. Why are you complaining? Stop it. Just do as I say. And it would be really nice if we could get that. But we're like those children. We don't understand it yet. We have to be good children. We have to trust our parents. We have to trust our parent. We have to trust our Heavenly Father. And of course that's God. That's everything. God sees the big picture. I think we get this idea that God is in heaven watching the world like a video. It has a start and a finish, and God is watching us throughout the present moment, waiting for the end to come. But God is beyond time. God sees the present. He sees everything that has ever happened in everyone's lives, all through the past and all through prehistory, to Adam, from the creation of the world all the way through. And then all the way into the future, he sees all of that. To the very end of the world, he sees everything in one glance. Everything. And so just knowing that God has such a clear vision of the whole universe. I mean, that is so liberating. It's huge. It changes everything. And I think it's an excellent foundation for this peace of soul that we're looking for. There is a particular lay brother in the history of the church who is not very well known. I suppose it depends. So some of you may have heard of his book, The Practice of the Presence of God. It's actually a fairly popular book, even with non-Catholics. Brother Lawrence was a lay brother. A lay brother is someone who lives in a monastery. He doesn't necessarily take vows like the rest of the monks. He's not in choir like the rest of the monks. So he is probably going to interact more with the world. He might even wear a slightly different habit. But he's essentially a layperson in habit living in a monastery. And that was Brother Lawrence. He was living in Paris in the 17th century, so middle of the 17th century. And Brother Lawrence in this monastery in Paris, he was the cook. And there were people, friends who knew him, who compiled his different sayings and writings. And that the title of that book is The Practice of the Presence of God. And I've included it in the description for this video. It's in the public domain, so you can actually read original copies of it, either on Google Books or the link is actually just a PDF that you can download and print. It's not that long. It's a fairly short book. You could probably print the whole thing on regular sheets, double-sided, maybe 20 pages. So it's very easy to read, very accessible. I make reference to Brother Lawrence because he really got that, this whole peace of soul thing. He really understood that. We could give a whole conference on Brother Lawrence and who he is. I urge you to pick up that book and to read it yourself. Brother Lawrence is a great example for us because the things that he was doing were so mundane. They were so normal. It was cooking. It's something that most of us have had to do. Most of us continue to do. It was mundane tasks. And when you read The Practice of the Presence of God, when you read that, you begin to understand how he takes absolutely every single little insignificant thing in his life, every little detail, and he makes that an opportunity to make this connection with God. And that's sort of the next thing I want to talk about is, okay, practically, how do we be at peace? Because we can talk about it and say how nice it is to be at peace, but we have to actually do something. We have to actually do it. How do you actually be at peace? As we said, we start with God. That has to be the beginning point. But when we talk about peace of soul, there's definitely a practice there. So peace of soul is something that is definitely interior. It's something that is in our mind. It's something that involves our thoughts. And I think a lot of times if we're not at peace, it's because we're so consumed with what's in our head. We just can't stop thinking. We're constantly worried about the news. We're constantly worried about coronavirus. We're constantly worried about whatever. And because we're always thinking about these things and we have this endless loop in our heads, we can't be at peace and we can't hear the voice of God and we can't pray and we can't do anything. We can't even do our daily mundane tasks because it's just that all these thoughts are so consuming. We can't do it. And that, when we talk about the concrete practice of peace of soul, we definitely need to understand how our thoughts work. Now, our thoughts don't stop. We're constantly thinking. Our mind is always in this process of taking in sense objects, taking in what we see and smell and touch and taste and hear, and processing it and making judgments about it and conclusions, and we react to it in one way or another. Sometimes we choose to react to it, or it's just automatic. Our body often does it automatically. But it's this constant process. It's this constant noise. And it's that noise that we especially need to address. So quite simply, we could give all kinds of little details about how do we practice this presence of God, how do we find this peace of soul. But I think if we really want to keep it simple, I think we just say, first, remain in the present. There is that quotation often associated with the Jesuits. I believe it's from St. Ignatius. Don't quote me on that. Age quod agis. Age quod agis. Do what you're doing. Whatever it is you have in front of you right now, just do that. Focus on that. If we can understand that, if we could focus on that, if we could just remain in the moment, the here and now, and not worry about what happened yesterday or what happened last year or what happened sometime in my past or what's going to happen in the future, what's going to happen tomorrow, how many more people are going to die, is the economy ever going to get better, what's the world going to be like in 10 years? We could go on and on and on about worrying about the past or the future. And if we could just let that go and stay in the here and now, that would make such a difference. God is not in our thoughts. God is not in the past. God is not in the future. God is in the now. God is in the present. When St. Thomas Aquinas talks about eternity, he describes it as just a present that never stops. Which, of course, doesn't make any sense to us. Eternity doesn't make sense because we live in time. But eternity is outside of time, so there's no past and there's no future. It's just a constant now. And I think if we want to access that eternity of God, we have to stay in the here and now. We can't get too lost in our thoughts. So once we've understood that, once we've realized that when we're brooding and thinking about the past or the future or worrying or going over things in our head again and again and again, we realize, okay, stop that, step away from that, step back from that, right? It's just going to go, it's going to happen. I step away. And then there is this necessary realization of God's presence. God is here. God is, if I am in the state of sanctifying grace, which I received at my baptism, God's in my soul. God is present in all of creation. All the things that he created is here with us, here and now. That realization is the next most important thing. God is with us. And we need to realize that God is not just, he's not just like an extra object. He's not just another thing. Like you have, you look outside and there's the trees and the sun and the grass and the birds and all these different objects that make up the landscape that you're looking at. In fact, that reminds me, and I've got it right here. I've got this quotation. This one's from Frank Sheed. I think this is great. When we talk about God permeating all things, to see everything tainted, or that's not a good word, colored, to see everything colored by God. I'm going to read this here. This is Frank Sheed, whose books I highly recommend. God is not just a sublime extra. It is not that we see the same things as other people plus God. Even things we and they both see do not look the same, and in fact are not the same. Think of a physical landscape at sunrise. It is not that you see the same hills and trees and houses as before, and now you see the sun as well. The sun is not just one more item. We must see everything God-bathed. Only then are we seeing everything as it is. We must see everything God-bathed. I like the way he expresses that. It's perfect. God, of course, he's the creator. He's the first cause. He's the one that gives being to everything. God is not just another extra. God, everything is soaked in God. It's a fantastic thought. We could contemplate that for forever. We probably will. It's very beautiful. And knowing that, understanding that, hopefully can give us a better idea of how God is with me. God is present, not just as an extra thing, not just as an extra object, not as like another material thing. God is beyond all of that. God is underneath all of that. God is with all of that. God is supporting everything. And so then we want to try and see everything in relation to God, in relation to his providence, in relation to his holy will. Once we begin to see that, once we begin to understand that, then I think we begin to access that peace that we're looking for. And as I was saying before, as Father McBride reminded us from Dom Baker, I believe it was, it's not an easy thing. It's actually hard work to have to constantly be reorienting this very human habit of constantly rehashing everything in our mind, constantly thinking about things all the time, constantly worrying about things all the time, just to step back from that, to let that go, let that happen, and just to be present with God, present with what I'm doing right now, whatever happens to be in front of me at this very moment, and just to focus on that. And to offer that up to God, to see this, whatever this thing today is in front of me, as coming from the hands of a loving Father. This is very consoling. But as I said, it's also hard work. And so I think we're just beginning Holy Week. We had Palm Sunday yesterday. Let's make this maybe an extra mortification, perhaps, to try to be more aware, just aware of the presence of God in our lives, in the midst of all the busyness, all the worry, all of the things that are constantly, all the noise in our head that's drowning out everything, just to realize God is with me. It's a fantastic practice, and it's something we all need to do. I think, I'm assuming, most of the people watching this video, you're Catholic, you understand the faith. Maybe you're learning your faith, but we don't do this enough. We, especially in the world that we find ourselves in, so much agitation, so much worry, so much anxiety, so much information constantly flashing at us. We're just so agitated. We don't hear God's voice. We don't sense his presence. And that it would be a shame if we missed out. If we went through our whole life and never really grasped that. We would miss out on a great treasure. We would not be preparing ourselves for our eternity. One more thing I'm going to suggest that I think will help as well, especially in the circumstances that we find ourselves in. Like I said, we're stuck at home. Maybe we're feeling a little down, feeling a little bit isolated. Make sure that we are grateful for what it is that we have, the graces that God has given to us. Do we realize that even in the midst of all of the difficulties, all of the inconveniences, all the dangers that we currently find ourselves in, have we taken the time to acknowledge that actually there's a lot of things that I should be very, very grateful for? Have we ever thought about that? Have we even just the tiny things, the insignificant things, the things that we normally just ignore? The fact that, oh, it's a beautiful day. God has given to me a beautiful day. Someone is kind to me. Someone does some small act of kindness for me. Or when I went to pray today, I had some kind of a realization that I had never had before. God gives us these tiny little graces that so often we let them pass. And when we're so focused on what we do not have, what we wished we had, when we even maybe we're a bit envious of what perhaps some others do have and we don't have right now, we don't see that, especially. And that of course only continues, just this constant agitation, this constant frustration that weighs down on us. So, as I said, as I began this talk today, calm down. God is with you. And we're going to make it through this, and we will have many lessons learned. It's going to be great. We're going to look back on this. And I hope when we look back on this, we can see this as having been an opportunity of grace. Graces that we didn't expect, right? We're going to get graces that we didn't foresee, but graces will come if we are corresponding to God's hand. I hope it's that kind of a moment for us, and that we learn from it, and that we look back on it, and that we are especially grateful for what we have at that time. When we do get life back to normal, when we do have complete access to the sacraments again, we'll look back and we'll think, wow, what a gift I have. What a fantastic gift. So let's begin this practice of the presence of God. Let's begin to reflect on God present within us and be at peace with our Heavenly Father who's there in our soul, who is very close to us. So of course, myself and all the priests in St. Mary's, we will be praying for you all. We will be thinking of all of you during Mass. Stay strong, stay at peace, and God bless you.